if you were a foot away from a Mojave rattlesnake. Those are mean boogers. That would be a very real and present danger. But the fear that there might be a snake somewhere outside, and so therefore you don't go outside on a hike, that's anxiety. That is the thought of something. It's just not the same thing. My biggest anxiety about homeschooling was that because I was the teacher, that I was 100% responsible for my child's success as a student, as a future adult, as somebody that was going to be released into the wild. And I was terrified that I was going to mess things up. I feel like I had a few final exams in my homeschooling career, and I hope that they encourage you because the reality is, one of the things that we teach inside Homeschooling Olympians, there are 5 pillars of successful homeschooling. The very first one is getting control of the emotional roller coaster that we, the parents, go through that is dealing with the peer pressure from society and the internal pressure from anxiety. Did I say that right? The external pressure from society and the internal pressure from anxiety that causes us to be unsettled about homeschooling. That anxiousness about whether or not we're doing enough, doing the right things, honestly, is something that we wrestle with the entire journey in homeschooling. The first time I felt it was, and we've done every kind of homeschooling that there is, from no curriculum, public school in a box, charter schools, sharing curriculum, everything. So do what works for you in the season of homeschooling that you're in, and don't let the societal pressure cause you to feel like what you're doing right now is not enough. One of the seasons of homeschooling, we had our children take the standardized tests because they were part of a charter school, and we loved the charter school. And we were very aware that the testing rigmarole was actually just part of how the school got their funding. And I remember being so anxious about how my kids were going to perform on these tests. And sure enough, they did terribly, as expected. Because you know why? We homeschoolers don't teach standard education. We teach to the child. And so if you were to test my children on what they had been taught, they would fly through the ceiling. But instead, these tests were teaching them what the public school system was teaching, and that is not what we were teaching in school. But I found that it caused me great anxiety. The second gauntlet that I went through was when we had a few of our boys take advantage of dual enrollment classes in the later part of high school, where they could go to high school and earn college credit and graduate with their diploma and their associate's degrees at the same time. And in order to get into the right classes, they had to pass or get a specific score on a placer test in order to put them in the right classes. And sure enough, I was facing the same anxiety myself. I don't know why I felt the anxiousness of whether or not they were going to perform well enough to get into class, but I did. And they did perform just fine. And 3 out of the 5 graduated with their high school diplomas and associate's degrees. 1 out of the 5 graduated and then completed his associate's degree a year after he graduated high school. And the other did more traditional high school slash associate's degree journey. But that the anxiousness is real. The last time that I felt it, we were dropping our baby. Oh, he's not a baby, he's a beast. He looks like a grown man. We're standing in his dorm. He was going to a private university. He had been recruited to row on their Division 1 team. And standing in this dorm room, I was very anxious. I would have told you it was fear, but now I know better. It was anxiousness because I thought, is he ready? I mean, this was the kid that didn't read till he was 10 and he could barely spell. He's a brilliant writer. He's brilliant at anything that he puts his mind to. But I wasn't confident in that moment that he was going to be okay. And I know that it wasn't a rational thought. It was an irrational, anxious thought that needed to get put away. And then I overheard him talking to a few of the buddies that were going to be on the team with him. One of the kids confessed that he had to take public speaking and was just freaked out that he was not going to do well in the public speaking class. And I overheard my son say, "You know what? I rocked public speaking in college and I actually won awards. And I'm guessing every single one of you is good at something, just like I know that I'm good at public speaking because I've been taught and I've practiced. If each of us help each other from our area of strength, we're all going to do just fine." And in that moment, all of the anxiousness dissipated. So here's what I want you to know. Anxiousness about whether or not your children are going to be okay after homeschooling is very likely going to follow you the entire journey through homeschool. And the pressure from society to stand in a line and to do the next thing and to perform the same duties is incredibly overbearing. But the internal voices of you're not doing enough, they don't know enough, they're behind, they're never going to make it, they're never going to get a job, they're never going to get married. All those lies from the pit are going to nag you the entire time. And this is why it's so important that you surround yourself with the right people. You need to be around homeschoolers that are a little bit further ahead than you so that you can be encouraged every step of the way. Social media is great, YouTube's great, but it's pretty impersonal and it's hard to reach out and get a one-on-one conversation with someone. So make sure, number one, that you actually look for what you would call a mentor in the homeschool scene. I've had mentors all along, from my husband to educators that I really respect, to friends that are a little bit further along in the road, and then even professors and tutors as my kids got older. I always had somebody to call if I bumped into a wall somewhere. And you need that too. I know that if I needed it, and when I look back, all five of our kids did great. They're they're amazing adults. They they love their family. They love each other. They love to give each other a really hard time. They know all of their basic math to function in society. Some of them are mathematicians, others just know the basics. They all love to read, except one. He's very particular about what he reads, but he does read and he does enjoy a really good book. But everybody else is a voracious reader. And they're all excellent communicators, both on paper and in front of a crowd, because those are the things that we focused on. And I can tell you that if you are listening to the sound of the train tracks and the train that's coming down are people from the public school system, people that disagree with homeschool, or well meaning homeschoolers that don't embrace the kind of homeschooling that you're doing, you're gonna have to deal with more anxiety than most, and I don't want that for you. I want you to enjoy your walk in peace and joy. Now, we do have corners that you can actually get connection with homeschoolers that are focused on building strong connections with their kids as a foundation, that are grounded in faith, and that understand that curriculum has very little to do with homeschooling, and academics are the smallest part of homeschool. So, to see a little bit more, to see whether or not we would be a good fit for you, I'm going to encourage you to go in the descriptions and take the 1 hour, I think it's about an hour, free masterclass that'll help you see which stage of homeschooling you're in right now, but it'll give you a better glimpse of who we are and let you know whether or not you want to peek a little bit closer at the communities that we have curated that are warm and wonderful and welcoming and encouraging and set up to help you succeed. So I will meet you in the descriptions, hopefully inside the masterclass. And just know you are not the only one that wrestles with anxiety. All homeschoolers that I've talked to wrestle with it at some stage or another. So you're not alone.